Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 5 of the Enriched podcast. I'm your host, William Richmond. Today, we have a special guest who's going to talk a little bit about his story with collegiate athletics and how he overcame some adversity early on. Brahm Erdmann went to Harvard, and he was a collegiate rower and won back-to-back national championships. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Brahm, thank you for hopping on the pod, man.
Thanks for having me, Will.
Of course, of course. So yeah, what first got you into rowing, and when did that passion for rowing kind of start?
Yeah, so I guess a bit of background on myself is that I grew up a lot of my life when I was younger in New Zealand. So I'm originally from the US and Canada, but I lived there throughout middle school and high school. And that's where I found out about the sport of rowing. You've probably not, I don't know if you've heard of it up until you were friends with Calvin.
Yeah. I have my cousin actually rowed for Penn, so I know a little bit about it, but
Okay.
I never really picked his brain on, how that was like on like a day to day and, the grind it really is.
Right, yeah. But I mean, if you talk to the average person in the US, they either have never heard of it or at least never done it and maybe like, oh yeah, my cousin's friend, I think he used to be a rower or something in college. But
Yeah.
people don't have a ton of engagement with it here.
Hmm.
But in New Zealand, I would say it's a bigger sport. Most people know about it. It's a source of a lot of national pride there because a lot
Hmm.
of really good rowers come out of New Zealand and compete at the Olympics and win events and things. So when I started high school, I used to play all sorts of sports. Like I was always a small kid.
Hmm.
But I would play, like, basketball, I was into volleyball, I did a lot of swimming, like water polo, those kind of sports. I was never really, like, a soccer kid like a lot of other people were,
Hmm.
but, I was kinda playing everything, and there wasn't anything I was, like, super focused on, coming into high school. So,
Yeah.
when the rowing team, like, was doing their sort of which always starts in high school, so rowing is, like, not a sport that generally happens before the age of, like, 14 or 13,
Hmm.
for a variety of reasons, but that's sort of when the majority of people get into it. So it's kinda like this, you all start at this same level of experience, starting in high school, which is cool because a lot of sports these days, it's getting earlier and earlier and earlier that you have to get into it to be at
Yeah.
a level, right? So it's still I apologize for the sirens going on in the back. I'm
No,
in New
my
York.
cat's also meowing too, so if you hear that,
Okay.
that might be a
Um,
little bit of a distraction.
yeah, I digress. So basically, like, yeah, in New Zealand, it's a sport that you get into in high school, and it's relatively well known. And so when those tryouts were happening, my best friend Mitchell at the time, he signed up.
Hmm.
And he went to one, and I was kind of like, nah, I don't really know if that's like something I want to do. My sister had tried it 2 years before,
Hmm.
and all I remember about her experience was that she'd wake up at like 4:30 in the morning to go to
Yeah.
practice. So the first thing I thought was like, there's no fucking way I'm getting myself involved in
Right.
anything that's doing that kind of thing, especially in high school.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I was the most motivated kid,
Hmm.
but I guess I came along with Mitchell one day to practice, and the guy who runs it, he was this old math teacher. His name was Peter Ray, and he was really old guy. Like, every time he'd stop talking, you're afraid he was gonna like kick the bucket or something. But what he'd do is he'd line everyone up at the trials. He'd go height order, and so all the tall kids on one end and then the short kids on the other. And I
Yeah.
was always smaller, but I was like just on the edge of the short kids where he would just pick the boats that he was going to take out. And I'd always be the very last one picked, but I would just make it in. So I
Yeah.
actually, when I went to the trials, that's the only criteria that he would trial kids on was just their height,
Interesting.
which is a common theme that you'll find in rowing. And throughout my career, that was something that I always had to struggle with until I just got a lot taller, like
Yeah.
luckily. But I came down, yeah, for a few practices. He'd line us up, we get in the boat, and it's such a repetitive and difficult sport when you're trying out. It's like a really hard sport to engage with at first because the
Hmm.
whole movement's very unintuitive.
Yeah.
It's not like running or walking, which you've been doing your whole life. You're moving a boat backwards through the water by pulling an oar. And it
Yeah.
just feels all wrong, right? And then to add another dimension to that, you have to do it with other people, and you have to do it completely synchronously.
Yeah.
Otherwise
In sync.
yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise it just doesn't move the boat in any capacity. And
Hmm.
so, I'd say it was a frustrating experience at first, and I wasn't engaged with it at all. I mean, I was playing other sports, and it was just kinda something I did, like, on every Wednesday afternoon. I'd go
Hmm.
down to, like, the lake that was near our school, and we'd do the rowing tryouts, and it was kinda funny because the guy who ran it was sort of an idiot, and we,
Yeah.
like to laugh at him, uh, and my friends would do it, so it started off like that, and I would say for a full year of rowing, I made the team, I did all the the practices. We maybe train like 3, 4 times a week. We'd race, every other weekend in the summer.
Hmm.
So I was pretty involved, but it was never something that I did because of a performance reason, like, at first. It was just because it was social, like, I just enjoyed the guys that were doing it, and we
Yeah.
spent time together, and, like, because it's kinda hard and you wake up early in the morning, you take the bus from practice to school all together and stuff, there's just, like, that diversity sort of brings you together a lot, and that
Oh,
happens,
100%.
at every level. You all good?
Yeah, yeah, just my cat.
Okay. That happens at every level, but especially when I was younger, like, that's what really kept me in it, was that, it was fun, and I never really took it seriously for a few years of doing it in high school, I would say. So
Hmm.
that's how I got started into it, yeah.
No, that's very interesting because I did cross country in high school, and it
Yeah,
wasn't, a sport I really enjoyed. It was for the social aspect, like you were saying, and it was to
absolutely.
stay in shape for lacrosse because that was my main sport.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, like over time, I kind of like really started enjoying it. I'm like, okay, there's actually like a beauty to this sport. It's not just simply running. You're trying to like pace yourself and like conserve your energy for that final push. And like now I'm still running. Like I'm active on Strava doing my runs every a couple times a week. So it's kind of similar to your situation. I wasn't in love with it at first, but it evolved over time. My passion for it.
I think there's 3 sports that are impossible to sell to a 14-year-old, and
Hmm.
it's running, swimming, and rowing.
Yeah.
They're kinda similar, and I feel like every kid does them because their parents force them to in some capacity, but no
Yeah.
one actually is like, "Ah, I wanted to be a runner from when I was young," and I would say the same thing about rowers. I don't think anyone falls in love with it right away. It's something that it burns slowly, I think.
And I think the main thing I gathered from what you were just saying, it's teaching you discipline, and you're going through that with other people, going through the grind of waking up early, having these tedious practices, and trying to balance it all. Because I mean, you had to balance it all with your academics, which we'll dive into where you went for that as well. Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
so yeah, I think it teaches really good discipline, and just structuring your days better. I feel like.
Yeah. It was a lot to take on at a young age.
Hmm.
And I think that's good for you. I think sports in general for kids at any age is like critical. And I really, really believe in it. And in the future, I want to work in that kind of field where I engage kids in sports more because I think it really can change your life for
Yeah.
those reasons. Just that structure and that discipline is really important.
No, yeah, that's amazing, man. So yeah, we'll
Yeah.
kind of dive into your early days at Harvard. What were your first impressions of the team and the program?
We're skipping a lot of years here. So I
We
when
can
I
backtrack if you want.
no, we don't need to. I guess what's important to note is that, like, it was never a dream of mine. I wouldn't say that I thought about going to Harvard at any point when I was in high school. I didn't really I mean, I had some so, I mentioned that I'm from the US, and my dad's from there, although I
Mhm.
never lived here. So I always had some, like, interest in going to the States for school.
Yeah.
Just because it's this whole like, university in the United States is unique to, like, anywhere else in the world. Like, there's like, college sports, like, living in dorms, parties, all these kind of things, the whole, like,
Yeah.
college community and that sort of carry on. That's, like people know about it, and it only kinda really exists in the States, and so it's something I was like, "Oh, that'd be cool to get engaged in," but it
Mm.
wasn't something I took super seriously.
Yeah.
So, the whole, like, Harvard rowing recruiting thing it kind of fell right into my lap, to be honest. I was on break at work one day. I was working at a bar, so I had graduated school already, and I had
Mhm.
finished rowing. I was a bad rower for a very long time until
Mhm.
my senior year, and then I had a really good year. Just kind of broke out, and things fell the right way for me. I had some great results
Nice.
at nationals and things. I had a bit of a resume, I guess, but nothing that was crazy and nothing that made me want to really continue the sport. So I had stopped it, and I was working at a bar while I was applying to university,
Mhm.
and I was on break one day from work. It was like a 10-minute break, just scrolling on my phone, having a drink, and
Mhm.
then I got an email from the Harvard recruiter saying, like, "I'm interested in bringing you along here if you wanna get on some calls and we could talk about rowing at Harvard," and I was like
Wow.
I thought it was a scam at first. I was like, "This isn't real." Some email
No,
trying to
it
get
seems too good to be
my
true a little bit, but
yeah, they're trying to get my information. So, I showed my mom, and she said the same thing. She was like, "There's no way this is real, like, I wouldn't trust this."
yeah.
But I emailed him back because I was like, "This is too specific. I mean, there's no way they know I'm a rower and that I would be interested in this kind of thing." So I emailed him back.
Yeah.
I looked him up, and he's a real guy. It's Ian. He's the assistant coach, and the more he's I mean, we got on a few calls, and, like, it took a while for me to realize that it was, like, real, that I was like, "Wow, this guy actually wants me to come." to like
Mhm.
one of the best schools in the world and like keep rowing. And it's like this dream that I'd never really dreamed, but it's like it's incredible. I mean, the idea
Yeah.
of doing, and I knew people who went to the States to compete at a college level. Like a very few, it wasn't a big thing. Even though there's lots of good athletes in New Zealand, they don't tend to go over all the time. Although I would say it's growing a lot now in the last like 5 years. So it was just like such a foreign concept in it, but it just happened. And it
Mhm.
happened really quickly. And then, all of a sudden I got my likely letter about 4 months after he reached out to me, and then I got officially accepted in December of 2020, which was already a weird year because of COVID and stuff. And so
Yeah.
everything just felt kinda weird. I was like, "Wow, my life's about to change so much."
Yeah.
And so I realized I was like, "All right, I need to keep rowing." So I got back, rowed to the club for a little bit. I had a really good 2 years with or 2 seasons with them as I waited to go to Harvard. And then
Mhm.
in 2021, I started in that fall, and coming to campus was crazy. It was back when, COVID was still a thing, especially at Harvard.
Yeah.
Everyone was wearing masks, and it was just like another cool thing was that, like, my class, a lot of people had taken a lot of people had matriculated, like, that year, although they had got into Harvard 2 years ago, if that makes sense, because they
Mhm.
took gap years over the COVID year, so I came in
Okay,
with
yeah.
this gigantic freshman class at Harvard, and the energy was, like, really high, I remember,
Mhm.
and I just thought it was incredible. Like, when I came
Yeah.
on the first few weeks, I was like, "Wow, this is so, like this is like I'm in a movie." Like, everything in America is, like, bigger and it's more pronounced and it's more intense and it's
Mhm.
just cooler, and people are very, very friendly and there's just so much going on, I remember. So, I wasn't even really thinking too much about the rowing aspect, even though I was there to
Yeah.
row. If I remember my first few weeks, it was more about school and just, like, being on campus and being at Harvard, and it was this unreal experience.
Yeah.
But then as time started to go on, that's when the rowing started to take over more and more.
Mhm.
Um, in my first year, and I started to take it pretty seriously after a few months of being on campus. Partially because I did really well. I mean, I came on as a freshman and just like I blew my own expectations out of the water.
Mhm.
I came in like made the top boat, like the varsity. There's like one race, big race that we do in the fall. It's called the Head of the Charles. It's this big event that happens in Boston. We raced in the collegiate lightweight 8, and I made that top boat, 2 months into being into the program.
Wow.
It was a shock to I work hard and, I'd been rowing, like, hard and, taking care of my little things well, but, like, I wasn't expecting to come in and just, like, make that kinda boat at Harvard. I thought it would be a lot longer of a time before I started to see those kind of rewards.
Mhm.
And it just kept getting better, like, I was doing really well in, like, the all the fitness tests and doing really well on the water and making the good boats, and then I found, like, by the first race in the spring, I was, stroking so in a boat, the guy at the front, he's actually at the back, but he's at the front as far as your perspective as a rower, because he's
Mhm.
the guy everybody's following. And so he's called, like, the stroke seat, and it tends to be someone you want them to be consistent, you want them to be aggressive,
Mhm.
and they want them to be easy to follow, right? You don't want them to be erratic in the way that they move.
Yeah.
And so it's something that, I think you tend to wanna put on someone with a little more experience, someone that you can trust,
Mhm.
and the coach put me in that seat
Wow.
of the first varsity of the top boat for the first race of the season in the spring, the first official race.
Yeah.
And I was stoked. I thought I was the man at the time. I was like, "I can't believe this is all
Yeah.
happening, and I'm doing so well at this incredible program and university," and,
Mhm.
everything was very high. And then it fell apart, like, really quick that year because we lost our first race. I remember it was a really cold day in, like, April. We were
Mhm.
racing in New Jersey against Columbia, and I think it was Penn, and we lost that first race by, like, 1/10 of a second or something. It was a really, really close race, and at
Yeah.
this time, it had been almost 2 years since anybody had raced in the league because of COVID and the cancellation, so nobody really knew, like, where the other teams were, and it was a really devastating loss to, just lose to them in my first race, but I was thinking, "Okay, here we go, like, now I'm ready, and if I come back, I'll be ready to go," and little did we know that, like, Penn was also just a terrible, terrible
Mhm.
team that year as well, and the more races we did, the more we would lose by, and we were just getting killed,
Damn.
like,
Yeah.
killed and killed by the end of the season, and we ended up not qualifying for nationals, and we didn't win a single race,
Yeah.
and it
What
was
was
just it was a hard experience. I mean, and I
I'm sure.
obviously being in the front of the boat and like being the only freshman in that crew and stuff, I took a lot of it on myself, just kind of thinking like, I'm the guy that is definitely fucking up here. Because I
Hmm.
came in and just like now you can't win races, and I don't know what happened. It was a big toll on me.
Yeah. Well, what was the morale like of your whole crew like as the season progressed and you guys were just losing by more and more? Like, how were you guys able to kind of rally around each other? Just do your like I feel like you reach a certain point where you're just like, all right, we just got to keep trying, just do our best, and just see
Yeah.
if we can start to flip the season at some point.
One thing I'll say about my team, when we were bad and when we were good, there was always like an unwavering like desire to win. Everybody really, really wanted to win. That sounds like, cliche of a sports team, but it's not necessarily true in like a lot of sports teams, a lot of
Yeah.
organizations. Some people have other motivations to be there. But people on my team, like they were racing to win. Like they didn't just want to be on the Harvard team. They didn't want to like just go to the parties or like get exercise for the sake of looking good. Like they really cared.
Yeah.
So it was never hard to like keep the morale going, even when we sucked. It was never hard to like show up to practice the next day because we were almost operating on this delusion that was like, once this piece falls in, everything's gonna click and like we're gonna start winning races and like we can do it. And then there are stories of teams that perform really bad in the regular season, and then as you come to the championship races, towards nationals, they start to just really peak and
Hmm.
win a lot of races. So we just thought we were that story. The whole
Yeah.
time is we're like, guys coming back from injury, like we're gonna make these couple technical changes, we're gonna get a bit more rest or whatever.
Hmm.
The morale was always high up until it wasn't. And I'd say it really just crashed low when we were at the Eastern Sprints Championships. That was in Worcester in Massachusetts.
Hmm.
And you had to come top 7, I think, to qualify for nationals. We came 8th.
Oh, damn.
It was like, yeah. And there's only 9 crews, so we came second last. We didn't just come 8th.
Oh.
And that was when we realized, like, that was a historic moment. Harvard has never not qualified for nationals in the lightweight league. So
Hmm.
you had this like statistical proof of you being a really bad team. And
Yeah.
there was no next race. There was nothing. And that was a really dark moment, I remember. But what's interesting, looking back, I was a freshman and I remember the crew is like a lot of older guys and they were really dejected. Like it was just, no one had anything to say after that race. We all got together in the trailer park where our boat was, and
Hmm.
it was pretty silent. And our coach, he didn't really know what to say. He was struggling to deal with a lot of that season as well towards the end of it. You could tell it was taking a toll on him. And I
Yeah.
remember I was the first one to speak up, and I said something along the lines of, the guys who are coming back next year and the year after, remember like how we feel right now in this moment, because we are never going to feel like this again.
Hmm.
And I don't remember too much from that season, but that was a really poignant moment
Yeah.
that, looking back, is crazy that I had like the nerve to say that. I mean, a common theme that season as a freshman, because I was doing so well, I could be kind of brash sometimes, and I could get mad at other guys, and I just
Yeah.
wasn't good at controlling my emotions because I was expecting this level of performance from everyone else too. And so
Hmm.
sometimes I would take the reins a little bit, and that was a moment where I did, and it was actually like, it was a really poetic moment when I look back at my career, because it's true. Like I never actually felt that way again, and neither did anyone on our team. Like we
Yeah.
worked really hard to pull ourselves out of that, and I hope that no one ever has to feel like that again, and
Yeah.
not qualify for nationals on the Harvard lightweight team, because it was really devastating at the time. But
Hmm. Well, no, I think there's a lot of power in like manifestation in your words and how you
absolutely,
can like reflect those with your actions. Yeah, dude. I mean, so this was in 2022, that season, the
this was
winless season.
22. Yeah.
So then, how carrying into like 2023, what kind of improvement did you guys see that season?
So that was the big inflection point, was 22 to 23. Sorry, it was 22 spring into 22 fall, right? Those are different
Oh,
seasons.
okay, yeah, yeah,
So
gotcha.
so we're moving into a new school year. The
Hmm.
seniors graduated. The leadership, so we elected this new captain. His name was Greg Kane. He's actually my roommate. We live together right now in
Oh,
New
really?
York. It's cool, yeah. It was him and this guy Johan. He was the vice captain.
Hmm.
So we elected these two the season before. At the end of the season, after we had lost, we held the captain's elections. We brought them into leadership. And on our team, the leaders matter a lot because they have a ton of influence both on the culture of the team and sort of the communication and the language we're using. then also they make a lot of decisions to do with like the training and like what the coach and the selection for the boats and whatever. So they have a lot of influence on the coach too. So, your leader is a big deal in the
Mhm.
culture of our team. And we brought these two guys, we, elected these two guys. They came in like really hard right away. Like before the season had started, the first thing that Greg decided was that our coach he wasn't cut out for the job. And he wrote like a really stinging document that kind of outlined all the reasons why. And he said like, this isn't going to be able to carry forward. And he asked the athletics department to fire him basically. And they
Wow.
wouldn't do it. They thought it wasn't a good idea.
Mhm.
They didn't think it would help us performance wise. And so then Greg actually went up to the coach himself and said, I want you gone. And like, here's the reasons why. And I don't think that we can carry forward like this.
Wow.
Which is, if you think about, like, it's a really ballsy thing to do. It's
Yeah,
not
it
an easy
takes a
thing
ton of
to do.
courage, dude.
Yeah. And he did it though. And our coach didn't resign. He said, I'm not leaving. This is like a challenge I want to take on. And funny, and well, the coach didn't leave Billy Boyce, and he stick with it. Now he's like been the coach of the year for the IRA, and he's won 2 national titles, and he's gonna be a legendary coach, I know it.
Mhm.
He's got so much going for him, and he's young still. At the time that year, that first year, he just wasn't doing his job right.
Mhm.
And Greg identified that and told him that he had that really hard conversation with him.
Yeah.
And although Billy didn't quit, I think he got what he needed to out of it. I think he realized that he needed to grow. He needed to do the right things. Like, he needed to be a better speaker. He needed to be more organized. He needed to be more aligned with his language and his actions. He needed to remember names better. He needed to just like, there were so many things that he wasn't doing right.
Yeah.
He needed to, have a plan, just stick to it. That was something that we just couldn't do.
Mhm.
He had to be more sure of his own decisions because he would just get sidetracked by what people were telling him, and he'd freak out, and
Yeah.
there was just a lot of things going wrong, and he really came into the next season like a new guy. You could just tell it was traumatizing that last season for him in his career.
Yeah.
He came in new. Greg came in really hard on us. He said, like, "We are rebuilding this all the way back down. We're not talking about it's not about winning or losing anymore. It's not about our performance. It's not about Harvard. It's not about our history. It is about working hard. And like
Mhm.
the only expectation I have for you is that you work harder than you ever have worked. And if we do that collectively, there's like no way we will at least be better than last season
Yeah.
and potentially better than you've ever done, in your rowing careers because, you're going to work harder than you ever have." And that was like the only guiding principle was hard work. And, that evolved into new things over time, over the years, that hard work. Then we started talking about accountability and integrity. We started talking about communication, and we started talking about consistency and bravery. But it all, the base of that pyramid is industriousness. That's what Billy
Mhm.
likes to say, our coach. That's what John Wooden liked to say about his UCLA basketball team, the
Yeah.
legendary ones, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, whatever.
Mhm.
He said industriousness was the base of the pyramid. And that just means loving the work, go up wanting to work hard because I love that feeling and I don't
Yeah.
care what I get out of it. I'm just gonna do it.
It's like Kobe kinda. Like, Kobe fell in love with the process, and, like, I think, you gotta love the work as much as the results.
I mean, not just this is the basic, for any like
Yeah.
high performing athlete. If you look at they weren't, I like to tell the team that the day you race isn't like the dream. But like Olympic athletes, they don't necessarily dream of the Olympics like
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis. They dream of the next day. Like they are most excited to go and train tomorrow. And like they wake up that morning like I can't wait to go train and I'm gonna go kill it. And then
Yeah.
the day of the race, they think, okay, I can't wait to go race in the Olympics because today is the day I'm racing in the Olympics. But they don't think that every day, because that's not a way to guide yourself. If you're thinking about something that's happening way in the future all the time, some kind of result that's out of your control, that's far away, it's not going to
Mhm.
be enough to get you up in the morning. What gets, the really, really elite athletes up in the morning is training. So it
Yeah.
all starts there, like just the hard work. Yeah, Kobe, exactly. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, like Michael Phelps, the swimmer, all these guys, they're if you read, like, any kind of account of, how they thought about sports, it's all about training. I
Yeah.
guess except, like, Allen Iverson, he's the one guy who didn't believe in
Yeah.
that.
He just had a God-given gift. I don't know what
So
what his deal
some
is.
people get away but, I think he says that, but at the same time, like, I bet he just liked to play basketball. I don't think he cared
Yeah.
about the NBA. So, to an extent, he did still love the work, just maybe in a different way.
No, and that's an interesting mindset. I feel like you have to have that, day-to-day mindset about everything. If you look too far in the future, even like career wise, like with your professional career, I think it sidetracks you from the main goal, and that's just the gradual improvement in whatever skill you're trying to get better at.
Absolutely, yeah. And that goes to, like, my whole rowing career. I didn't dream about, like, winning national championships or going to, the Henley Regatta and winning that, which I'll talk about later, or, winning, like, my school championship, any stuff like that. That just wasn't things that I dreamed about, I wouldn't say I was unambitious, but I was just enjoying the practice. It kinda goes all the way back to when I started rowing. I just liked it because my friends did it, and, like, that was what got me up, to go to practice and things. And that's never changed with me, like, no matter how high the level was, it's always been a love for the day to day. And
Mhm.
sometimes, I had bad seasons, and sometimes from that, I had really good seasons. At the end of the day, like, 99% of those seasons are the same. It's just like, sometimes they end well and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And that's life. Like, sometimes you do a lot of things right and it just doesn't fall your way, and that's okay. And, like, if consistent output over time, like, you're gonna get what you deserve, when it comes to you.
Yeah. No, that was kind of the case because so Calvin and I were on the same lacrosse team in high school,
Yeah.
and we had a couple years that were really rough, dude. Like we had this super high expectation. We were, 4-time Montana high school lacrosse champions. And then the year after my brother graduated was my junior year, Calvin's sophomore year. We were not the same. We just completely did not meet the expectations, and just trying to navigate that and, figure out how we can get back to that sustained level of greatness was tough. And, we never really fully got there, but I think, we made baby steps towards getting there again, which was, it was something, but of course, you want to get to the
Would you
end
say
goal.
that the way you approach lacrosse and the seasons you were good and bad were super different?
They were pretty different. I wasn't good at, always having a good mentality about how we can make things better. Like when things were rough, I kind of just was down in the dumps, and I think that was the vibe around the whole team. And I think that's something looking back on, I wish I was more vocal about, like really trying to lift our spirits up because I was a captain at one point, and I just think I didn't really fully embrace all the responsibilities that come with that and fully live up to what was expected of me.
Leadership is hard. It's
Yeah.
such a different thing to just being the athlete.
Hmm.
It's a different experience. I was a vice captain when I was a junior, and then I was a captain when I was a senior. I would say, like, it wasn't the most fun I had. The most fun I
Hmm.
had is being the athlete, but it's also a
Yeah.
very, it's a rewarding experience too. You're thinking about a lot of new things, and it does grow you a lot, I would say.
Yeah. And I feel like now you can transition that to, your career endeavors as well when you get into
Yeah.
leadership positions with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling right now to, like, really transition it because I'm in a different phase now, like,
Hmm.
I'm no longer the guy who has done it for 10 years and who has all these results and, like, I could back it up by, like, I can lead you because I know what I'm doing and, like, trust me. Now I'm starting work and I'm back to, you're back to being a freshman again.
Yeah.
And, you wanna carry on the right lessons from leadership into that, but there's some things that just don't translate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to find my place now, and it's interesting, like, transitioning from sports to working is definitely hard. It's just way less defined, like, it's harder to measure success, and your processes are different, so you gotta get used to those too, but
Yeah.
I do really believe that it will, in the long term, be a really good thing for me, and I think those lessons will start to, I'll start to make those connections between sports and work,
Yeah.
slowly, and I'll kinda build that toolkit out. But that's, I'm just trusting what people tell me and my intuition, but I think it is a good thing for the professional world. I just haven't
Yeah.
really felt that yet, but I think it'll come, yeah.
I think those traits will start, creeping back into your life, like as you get more and more, progress into your career. I think you'll start to see that parallel.
Well, fingers crossed, yeah.
Yeah, me too, dude. I'm hoping with my career as well. But yeah, let's talk about 2024.
Sure, yeah.
That was a pretty good year for you guys. What was the point in the season where you guys started to realize like, hey, we got something really good here?
I think it was day one. Like, for context, 2023 came second at the national championships, so we
Oh,
went from
wow.
not even qualifying to almost winning.
Hmm.
That year that was just built on hard work, and it was like a total cultural reset that year. We lost a ton of guys. We lost all of our senior class, right? They graduated. We had a small freshman class incoming,
Hmm.
and we also had a lot of incoming seniors, like previous juniors from the year before that had quit, who were like guys who were quite good on the team as well. So our team was, we just like, it was a total reset. Like we were half the size. We were a bunch of new faces. We were young, and it was like a shock to come second. We were like, that year didn't feel real at any point. That was like a crazy
Yeah.
year. Like, what is going on? We were winning way more than we should be here.
Mhm.
But then, once the dust settled on that year, I came into the next one being like, I think I know what it takes now. Like, I think I understand what was good about last year, why we did well, and we're going to repeat that and then double our success, and we're going to win this time. And I think
Yeah.
everybody came in the same way. They're like, we know, like, now we have this base, like, we have this culture of work. Nobody is here for any other reason than to like work hard.
Mhm.
And so I'd say 2024 was a year of, it was about performance. Like it was about executing. It was about maximum output.
Mhm.
And we had a guy that year. So I would say, the year before was defined by our captain, Greg. And 2024, I'd say, was defined by this guy, Ryan McCarthy, who actually, he lives in Newport Beach. So he's kind of near you.
Really? Okay.
He is this, like, he was maybe 6'3", like he was a tall guy for a lightweight, a very tall guy, skinny guy.
Mhm.
And he just, the way he sees the world is very black and white. It's like, you're a winner or you're a loser, kind of like, I'm going to do that. Like if he decides that like I'm going to do this, like he does it.
Yeah.
And he was just a fucking animal. Like the guy would so the erg is like the kind of the rowing machine that we use. I'd say
Mhm.
half of our training is done, like a huge amount of rowing is done on the erg, because it just builds fitness, it builds the good, the basic movement, the habits, the strength you need. So, and we do all of our fitness testing on the erg as well. So it's a really easy way to kind of objectively measure one guy against another. Is just put them
Mhm.
both on the erg over like 2K or 5K or whatever time they put out. That's how you kind of rank people.
Yeah.
And he was just unbelievable at like getting on an erg for a fitness test and just outperforming. Like he had this, and rowing is a hard sport, right? That's something that you have to do it to really know. But you were a runner, so I guess you kind of know that feeling of like your lungs really, really burning. But
Yeah.
rowing is like that. Like you have to push through a ton of lactic acid, which is like basically this chemical in your body that's telling you like stop. Like it's like, and that's
Yeah.
what makes your muscles hurt. That's what makes your lungs burn. It's what makes your heart beat. So you're pushing through a ton of that kind of fatigue when you're doing a test. And it's mentally really draining. I don't think I will ever do anything as hard as like fitness tests on the erg. They are brutal.
Yeah.
But Ryan didn't care. He just went straight through it like he didn't care. He was all about beating the guy next to him.
Mhm.
And the guy next to him was me a lot of the time. I was kind of like, whereas Ryan was the top dog on the every kind of fitness test on the erg, and I was always following him. And sometimes I'd beat him,
Mhm.
but he was just a killer. Everyone kinda, that was the mentality that, like, we started to take on that season. We sort of had this cockiness, like, we made the here, look at these shirts. We had this brand, like, we started to, like, we're like, "We are the Harvard lightweights." Like, we are, like, "We're gonna come in there, we're gonna kill you."
Yeah.
And Ryan kinda led that. Like, he wasn't a vocal guy, like, he wasn't a captain or anything. I was the vice captain, this guy Mike was the captain.
Mhm.
Ryan was just, like, this spiritual leader, and he was a winner, and so that year was about winning, and we did everything like did the year before, we did again. We kept the basics right, but then we were really executing hard, like, when it came to it, and we
Mhm.
do a lot of practice racing against our heavyweight team that year. Heavyweights tend to be a little bit quicker than lightweights, so it's good to race against them because they sort of push you, they're like sort of this next tier of competition, that's, like, hard to compete with as a lightweight. And we go
Mhm.
out there with them, and we would, like, really take it to them, sometimes beat them in things.
Yeah.
That was, we were just, like, sharpening our swords, and we were having a ton of fun that year as well. Like, we would work hard, we'd play hard. That the senior class was, like, that was the one that Calvin was in. Calvin, I think, he wasn't there for that year. Those guys were just fun. Like, they were really quirky, and they were all together, these seniors, which is, not always the case. They don't always room together and stuff, but these guys were tight, and so they
Yeah.
sort of created this culture of, like, HVL, of, like, loving Harvard lightweight rowing. And so, we'd have our social events and we'd party together, and we'd spend a lot of time together, in and out of the boathouse. And then when it came to it, like, we would win together. And
Yeah.
winning together was this really special feeling that we hadn't really had yet. We'd
Mhm.
done a lot of this guys in these cohort, like my class and the class above, we'd been through a few years together now, and we sort of had this journey of like being terrible and starting to have a lot more success. But then when we won the national championship, we won in the 1v, the top boat, and the second boat. We won both national championships. Um, that was like that bond I have with those guys forever. I live with three of them now, and like they're always gonna be my friends. It's a very unique like feeling to like strive for success with your best friends, and then to achieve that success with your best friends.
Yeah.
It makes it. It's I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm not doing a good job of it, but that was a
No,
special, you know.
I think you are, and I think, camaraderie is crucial to, like, not only when you're actually actively, like, practicing or racing, but, like, off the boat as well, like, just, like,
Yeah,
bonding and, like, just these are some of your, like, pals you're going into war with, like, it's a
exactly.
legitimate war, and having that
Yeah.
camaraderie in all facets of your life, I think, is crucial to success.
Yeah. And when you line up on the start line, like it's scary because you have to execute, you got to perform, but it's also going to hurt a lot. Like that you know that like you're going to have 6 minutes of like a lot of pain coming up,
Yeah.
and you want to know that the guys with you are like we're all going to approach that pain in the same way, which is we're going to catalog it. It's like, all right, I'm hurting. I don't care. I'm going to keep executing. I'm going to get my boat in front.
Mhm.
And to have that trust it takes time to build. You have to see it, from each other a lot in training before you really believe that you can do it together. But when you do, that's special. And you never lose that trust. I have that trust with these guys forever. I know that like they're able to go through a lot, to make sure that, their teammates are winning and put themselves in a good position. And I think that translates to a lot of things. Like I trust them,
Mhm.
trust them. Yeah.
And so with the Henley Royal Regatta, is that something you partook in 2024 and 2025?
Yeah, so Harvard, they're great. Like they are all about performance outside of the normal. So if you win the national championship, they'll fund you to go to the Henley Royal Regatta, which is this like really old historic event. It's an international event, so crews from all around the world will go, and there's several tiers to it. So it happens in the UK, in a town called Henley, and I think it's like the oldest rowing race or something like that. It's got some fact like that, and it's just like steeped in all this tradition. And winning Henley in any category is a big deal. If you're a rower, like about it, and if someone has done it, then it's instantly like this you have for them. It's kind of like the Olympics in that way. It's got this mystique to it. And there's like a high school level, there's a university level, and there's like an open level as well. So we're competing in the university level against, universities in the US and the UK and, the Europe, whatever, Australia, all around the world. Another important thing to note about Henley is that it's an open event. In the US at the college level, there's lightweights and there's heavyweights, and we're a
Mhm.
lightweight crew. So we race against other lightweight crews. It's capped at 160 pounds. You have to weigh in the day before the race.
Hmm.
So it's small guys, and you race on the small guys, and the level is high. Like you have to go really fast to win, but the level of heavyweights is just a little bit higher because they're just taller, bigger, faster, stronger, whatever. And rowing, that kind of matters. Like your output and your leverage does matter.
Definitely.
So being a bigger guy helps. And when you go to Henley, you're racing the big guys. Like it doesn't matter if you're a lightweight or heavyweight. Like you're all in there together in the same university event. And you just got to put up with it if you're a light guy. And that's just the way it is. And so we went as a lightweight boat in 2024 after we won the national championship. It was a surprise to even go. I mean, it was like a dream for a lot of us to go. Like it was something
Mhm.
that was like, it was like whispers, like, if you win, apparently you get to go to this thing. And then it
Yeah.
actually happened. And we were like, wow. Like we were like, you're wearing your blazer, you're traveling over the UK together, it's all funded, and you get to race in this crazy, like it's so unique because you race down this like really narrow course. It's maybe like 30 feet wide, like 40 feet wide.
Mhm.
And it's very intimate. Like there's two boats and there's an umpire boat behind you. And then the whole bank is lined with spectators, like the whole 2,000 meters.
Wow.
And so it's just, normally you don't get that many people watching rowing. So it's just like you're not used to having a ton of spectators, at least until the finish line. But this is like, there's just noise and like there's energy the whole way. And it's this whole event. Like it's a big event, for people in the UK to just go to. Like whether
Mhm.
or not you care about rowing, it's like going to Wimbledon or something, you just kind of go, like enjoy the atmosphere, you have some drinks, whatever. And then there's, anyone who rows as well is really into it and watching the racing and stuff. But it's just it's this like festival of rowing. And you're racing down this tiny, like this narrow course with this
Yeah.
one other boat, and it's just about like you against them. And then if you lose, you're knocked out. and if you win, you get to progress the next day. So it's like March Madness, right? It's just a very like unique kind of event, and going there and racing there is unbelievable. Like if anyone rows and is thinking about it ever, like, you have to race at Henley if you can. It's expensive and,
Yeah.
hopefully funded by your program, but it is just unbelievable. And so we went, and then we actually ended up like doing way better than we thought. We made the semifinal,
Shit.
which was like, for a lightweight crew, was like, we were turning a lot of heads that year. People were like, wow, like no one, heavyweight rowers tend to not have a ton of respect for lightweights. And I think it's somewhat fairly placed because lightweight boats tend to be slower. So it's like, you know, I would also expect if I'm a bigger guy to beat the smaller guy.
Yeah.
We were like beating crews that were well bigger than us. And it was like a very satisfying feeling because
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
it's like, like you don't deserve anything just because you're bigger than me. Like you didn't do anything for that. You just got
Yeah.
bored. You're right. And like, it was awesome. It was awesome. We made the semifinal that year, and yeah, I think it was equally as fun of an experience as, like, winning the national championship. It was just as, like, surprising. We came away just as happy with that, and yeah, I don't know, it gave us a lot of momentum going into the next year, I'd say, and also gave us a lot of attention. Like, I think people kinda at that point, this brand that we built, we were the Harvard Lightweights, like, we had the shirts that we made and like the Instagram, we used to make these fun videos and stuff, and like we get
Yeah.
some engagement with that. And one of our videos got like 10 million views, which
Oh
is
my
pretty
God.
cool. I had
That's
people
crazy.
like sending it to me that didn't even row, like people from high school. They were like, "Is this you in this video?" I'm like, "Yeah." But we were just, yeah, we just felt cool. It was like we felt like we were kind of like, we were like doing it, like we were winning these races that people didn't think we could win, and
Yeah.
that was special. Yeah, it was a cool year. It was a lot of fun.
And did you start to feel that, notoriety around campus? Did people know who you guys were?
Like, people knew that we won. I get a lot of "Oh, I heard you won the national championship, like, congrats." But, I would say, like, notoriety, like, exists within the rowing world, and then, like, outside of it, people will I think other athletes will respect, an athlete that is high performing in any sport, but, rowing is not like a fan sport, so for the most part, people I wouldn't say, like, everyone cares or anything, but, I think within the rowing community across the world, like, that's where we were starting to gain a lot of notoriety, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Um
And so, yeah, then going into 2025, I mean, expectations are at an all-time high now because you guys, were national champions and got to the semifinals at Henley. So what was the vibe like then? I mean, you explained that 2024 you guys were confident, but it must have been like a whole
Yeah.
different gear in 2025.
In 25 was I mean, it just happened. So I'm still kind of reflecting on it, I guess.
Yeah.
That was a year, so I was the captain that year. Uh, I'd been in this varsity boat my whole time at Harvard. I had witnessed, zero to hero completely. I'd been through that whole process. And now it was kind of like, now what, right? What, like, where do you go from here when you win?
Hmm.
And the obvious answer to that is win again. And that was what was expected of us. And that was what
Yeah.
that was like obvious. Like, of course, we're going to go in and try to win again. But the challenge was like, how do you motivate? Like, what's drives us this time? If it was just about winning last time, like it's stale to just be about winning again. It's got to be about something else. And so we elevated it. We said, okay, it's about dominating. Like this is about being historic. It's about being the greatest ever. Those kind of things that are getting thrown around. And I was always careful because you don't want to do that too much, because then you almost lose track of like where it's all about, right? What it's all about is
Yeah.
the hard work. It's all about showing up and loving it every day. So
Hmm.
to an extent, like we just kind of silenced the last year. We were like, all right, that's in the background. It happened. We don't think about it now. We're just going to
Hmm.
go back to the basics. We're going to get, the things that we know how to do right. We're going to get those right. But there was this kind of like, there was an underlying sort of energy of like, all right, like this one this one's gonna be big. Like we're gonna really go for the throat now, and we're gonna win in like a way that no one else has won before. We're gonna go undefeated again, and I think
Yeah.
that was something that like it was this quiet expectation that we didn't want to say or jinx. We
Hmm.
were sticking to what we knew, but in the back of my mind, that's what I wanted. And I didn't actually talk about this one a lot, but in the back of my mind, I wanted to win Henley. I wanted to go back and I wanted to win that event, which the lightweight crew, I think Princeton did it in 2009, and then it's never happened otherwise. It becomes harder and harder. The level gets higher every year, and it's just
Yeah.
like it's not an easy event to win, and for a lightweight, it's a really hard event to win. It's just something that like I don't think people even considered is real. Like us making the semifinal was like crazy, and I think that was like, oh well, that was cool. But I was like, no, like I really do think we can win this.
Yeah.
I don't think we're at what we can be yet. And I didn't talk about that too much, right? Because once again, like you don't want to set expectations too high
Yeah.
and make that like your factor of success and nothing else. Because then like if you hit it, you don't hit it, and then like you're like, oh, what was that all for, right? You want to set the expectation to be like things that are easy to hit on a day-to-day basis. So that's
Yeah.
what we talked about. And forward facing, that's what we were all about. It was about competing, accountable, consistent, brave, hardworking, industrious. That was what we were all about.
Yeah.
But, quietly, like, it was something I would daydream about in class, it was something I watch all the Henley videos. I was like,
Hmm.
I wanted it really badly. And I only really started to talk about that to the guys. I only really started talking about the guys in the top boat when, we won the second national championship and we officially were going back to Henley. And that's when I sent an email and I sort of laid the foot down on the guys. And I think, they all sort of did it back as well. Like everyone was sort of in on this goal of like on booze cruise that like it's some like, party that we're having it because we won nationals. We get to go to Europe and have
Yeah.
fun. We're going here to win. Um, and so that I kind of just rambled, I guess, but that season, yeah, 2025 it was about being the very best we could be. It wasn't just about winning the most speed we could possibly get. It was about being better than ourselves last year, which was, not an easy thing to do. But, you have to strip it back down to like a personal level. Like, can I be a better athlete and a better teammate than I was?
Yeah.
And if everyone's doing that, then, we have to do better. And that's just kind of like what ended up happening. And we did do better. I mean, we achieved some more historic results last season. And I would be pretty comfortable in saying that, I think we were one of the best lightweight crews ever.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of everybody because that was a full, 30 guy effort. It was not just the heroes. There wasn't just a few guys that were just carrying the team. It was everybody. So yeah.
And so in the back of your mind, you mentioned like the prior success you guys had in 2024 and how that motivated you to want to win the whole thing. How
Yeah.
much of it was also, the fact that you were graduating, this was kind of like your last hurrah and like you wanted to just end off your career on a bang?
You know,
Or was
I
it
didn't
was it about the prior success
it w
mostly?
that's a great question. It was, but that didn't kick in until, like, quite late, I'd say.
Mhm.
Most of that year, I didn't even really think about, you know, I don't know what the word is, like, the finality of it, like, this was it, right? I didn't really, like, ponder that too much up
Mhm.
until, like, the last few months, and then I remember I had this realization. I went to go my mom had come and visited, and we were walking around one Saturday around Boston, and we went over to the office that I just got a job that was gonna
Mm.
start when I graduated, and I went over to see the office for the job. It was like this consulting gig, and, we walked in and we kinda looked around and, it's a bunch of cubicles in a sterilely lit room, and I was like, "Fuck," like, I don't I didn't really, like, understand how different my life was about to be, um,
Yeah.
until I saw that, and I was like, "That's what awaits me." And it wasn't, like, depressed or anything. I was like, "Well, I have this new chapter where, like, my priorities are gonna be, like, professional, and, like, I'm going to, go to work to make a living and stuff." And that's when it really hit me that, like, what I get to do every day in sports is such a privilege. Why would I waste time doing anything else? And that's so then that's when I really went all in. Like, I'd say the last 2 or 3 months, like, all I thought about was rowing and winning and, like, training. I was putting in as much as I could, and I wish I had had that realization earlier, I think
Mhm.
I put about, I would say, 98% of what I had in for most of my time, but I was putting in 110 after that moment, when I realized that, like, this is fleeting and it's, like, a real privilege and it doesn't last forever. Like, sports, at some point, they leave you. Uh,
Yeah.
that's just the reality, and it's sad, and, you probably had to go through that too as someone who used to play. I don't know if you still do it all, but, yeah, that's, like, I guess that motivated me just towards the very end, but for the most part, I wasn't thinking about it too much. I'm not the most sentimental guy normally.
Yeah. I would say for me personally with like lacrosse, I do have like a bit of a regret just not training as hard. I wasn't really lifting a whole lot in high school. I was a pretty small kid as well for a while. And yeah, I think just looking back on it, I really wish I would have taken advantage of, having a gym at my school or, having all these gyms near my house where I could just go and train. And yeah, that's my biggest regret, I guess. That and it ate at me for a little bit, but I've kind of learned to put it in the past, and hopefully, if I have a kid who wants to go into lacrosse, I can instill those principles that I wish I would have in myself.
Yeah, I think I was the same. I think a lot of kids in high school are the same. Like they don't see the value too much in the sport yet. They're not
Hmm.
old enough. They're just not mature enough, especially boys. Do everything you can, but that's normal. I did the exact same thing, and then I just got blessed with a second chance. I did well enough to earn it, but I
Hmm.
really did get lucky. And then I'm so glad that I got that second chance because now
Yeah.
I got to kind of redo my experience, but in a way that I can be a little more focused on it.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I don't know if the time is right for that when you're in high school. Like I think there's a lot of focus now on like kids getting really professional at stuff really early.
Hmm.
And if I had done that, I don't think I would have been the college athlete that I was because my experience wouldn't have been about having fun and being with my friends and like the joy of rowing. It would have been about performance and it would have been about, being the best I could be and whatever. And like, I think that would have maybe tired me out if I had started too early. So
Yeah.
that's something to think
That's a
about
good
too.
point.
Kids are pushed really young now, especially in certain sports. Like they're pushed really young to
Hmm.
be good. Think of like basketball players. Like they're playing AAU at like 11. They're doing like 10 games a week, and it's like fuck. Like
Yeah.
they're just a kid, and I guess sometimes that works out for kids and they make it really far. But a lot of the times, I think it just drives you into burnout. There's a time and a place for everything, and I think college is a good time to really focus. I think you're old enough. I think you're given the resources and the time, and your body's mature enough that you can really take it on like that.
Yeah.
That's just the way I see it. Like,
I think there's something to be said about finding a balance between, passion and how much you exert your energy with it early on. Because I feel like it could
definitely,
kill the passion, if you overdo it, like you're
definitely.
saying. Yeah, I guess kind of just reflecting on your whole college career. If your 2022 self saw what you were able to achieve in those 4 years, like, what would you have thought?
I would have told you to fuck off if you told me. You told me everything that we did. I would have been like, "What the hell?" A good story is my second year, so we just had the worst year ever.
Hmm.
Common new group, and this guy Zach Mecca, he got a hold of this like giant calendar that like had like all of 2023 in it. And so that was like the upcoming season, like into the spring.
Hmm.
And he wrote in this calendar, like, he was like, all the dates of our spring races, he circles and he puts W's next to all of them. And then he puts like win East, like sweep Eastern sprints, and then like sweep nationals, win everything, like go to Henley, win, party, whatever. He puts all these ridiculous things on the board.
Yeah.
And mind you, we have not won a race since like 2019. We are like, it's been like a really dark couple years for our team. And like, he had
Yeah.
no reason, like, no right to be writing that kind of stuff up there, and it was just kind of funny. Like, I used to just find it funny, and I would look at that board, I'd be like, "This guy is delusional." But, his energy was great. Like, he would come, he really believed it. He was like, "Yeah, of course we're gonna win." Like, he was from Buffalo. I also live with him now, and he's just, like, this really optimistic guy. But I remember he'd put up that calendar, and I was like, "What?" Like, "Why are we talking about these kind of things? Like, this is, like, absurd." Like, these have never happened in Harvard history. Like, we've never won Henley. Like, that's not gonna happen.
Hmm.
And we've never gone undefeated like that. And then, that year we didn't do most of the things you wrote on that board. Like, we didn't win most of our races. We didn't win nationals. We didn't win sprints. We didn't win Henley. But we outperformed like way above what we thought we would. And then looking back, every single thing that Zach wrote on the board has happened. And when I compare like how I thought about that board then to looking at it now, like if I looked at it now, I'm like, yeah, of course we're gonna do all that stuff. Like all I remember now from Harvard is winning. But at
Yeah.
the time, like that was not anyone else's mentality. And somehow he like, had the self-belief to like write that kind of stuff up and believe it. But I didn't. And much respect to him
Hmm.
for calling that shot so early. And if I had advice, I don't even have any advice for myself in 2022 because it all ended up pretty well. But
Yeah.
you know, one thing I wish is that I wasn't always so hard on myself. Like I
Hmm.
think that made me good. I think that helped me a lot with success, like, just to be really I was I didn't make excuses. I wasn't like, "Oh, we're bad because of this and this guy and this coach and whatever." I was like, we're bad because I suck and I'm not doing things right." And I always have that mentality when it came to rowing, and I think that got me really far. But at the same time, like, you don't wanna kill yourself too much. Like, if I was to get back into this again, like, say I was to start training to go to the Olympics or something, which is what I think about doing sometimes,
Hmm.
I think I'd come in with a new mindset of there's what you can control and there's what you can't control, right? And, like, what you can control is actually a lot more than you think you can. I think a lot of athletes, like, think a lot of things are out of their control that aren't. I think you can have a massive influence on the culture of your team as an individual. You can seriously influence, how much other people wanna show up to practice. Like, if you come in and you're having fun and you're, like, out there just setting the tone in a way that is, like, building other people up, you
Hmm.
can really change a lot of things about your team. And that stuff is in your control. But at the same time, like, you're gonna have bad days. Like, that is an uncontrollable.
Yeah.
It's the rule of thirds. Third of your days are gonna be amazing, third of them are gonna be alright, third of them are gonna suck, you know? And, you just have to be mature about the days that suck.
Hmm.
That's something I wish that I was more mature about, and I think I'm better at now. I think I can deal with, just poor practices and poor performances a bit better, knowing that it's not what I expect of myself, but it's just a reality of life.
Hmm.
And as long as, you don't get comfortable with them, you just have to just keep faith that, like, the good days are coming. If you just
Yeah.
do, what you can control, you get those things right, and then yeah.
And yeah, I think there's something to be said about having those tough talks that you guys had to have, with
Yeah.
your buddy calling out your coach for his, flaws, and also you speaking out as a freshman and really, saying, what needs to be done in order to get you out
Yeah.
of these losing ways. I think that's huge, and it seems like you guys really took that to heart, and your actions reflected, those words you had
Yeah. I
uttered to your
learned
team.
Yeah, and beyond, like, just the words, like, what I really learned from my team and my experience with, like, some of these guys and winning and whatever, all these things is that you really have to align, like, what you say to what you do. If you say, like, "I'm gonna work harder than I ever have," like, you better be in the boathouse, like, doing extra sessions like you never have, and if you're gonna say, like, if you're gonna have a plan, like if you're gonna make a training plan, if you are going to have a selection plan, you're gonna say, "This is how I'm gonna." If the coach is like, "This is how we're gonna pick the crews," you have to stick to it. Like, no matter what, you have to live by the sword and die by the sword. And, like, that's integrity. I think that's the best word. Integrity is, if what you say and what you do, if those actions are matched, then you're an integrous person. And
Hmm.
yeah, like, that's what I think I can carry forward a lot in my life and stuff. That's what I think a lot of guys on my team are really good at doing. Like, they don't if they say something, like, they mean it, and they know what
Hmm.
it means to not mean it, and how that can lose respect for you, and how that's not gonna get you the things that you want in life, if you're gonna just say things and not carry through with them.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah,
so for my last question I kind of have for you is like for any
yeah.
athletes that are in struggling programs, is that kind of your main piece of advice that you would give for them, like sparking a transformation? Just kind of having that integrity and having your actions reflect your words.
Definitely, I think integrity is a big thing. I kept saying, like, consistency, accountability is massive. Like, be accountable. And so, if I'm going to give one piece of advice to someone younger who, doesn't feel like their team or themselves is performing at the level they would like, I would say that what can you do, right? Be accountable. Like, be accountable for your own performance. Take care of your body. Be healthy. Get the sleep. Do the work. Come to practice prepared, like, give a shit when you're there. That's the basics. A lot of kids do that right.
Yeah.
But then be accountable for, like, for how you impact others too. Like, I think that's a big one. And so, are you complaining? Do you have bad body language? Are you not enthusiastic? Are you not believing, in the vision? Are you not aligned with other guys? Are you shitting on the coach or shitting on your teammates? Those kind of things add up when you're struggling as a team.
Hmm.
And so that's what you can do. Anybody can show up and do what Zach Mecca did. That anybody can show up and say, I'm gonna win. Like, let's win. I'm so happy. I'm happy to be here, smiling, like, working hard, being prepared, being accountable to the culture. That's what
Yeah.
I would be accountable for yourself, be accountable to the culture. And it only can go up when you do those kind of things. And when everyone does them, together, then you can have unbelievable success. Like you never
100%, dude. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, sky's the limit, seriously.
But yeah, thank you, Brahm, dude. This was an amazing talk, man. Calvin gave me a very brief synopsis on what your journey was like, but to really dive deep and like look at, the year-to-year progression and just like what it took mentally, physically for you and your teammates is pretty amazing, man. So yeah, thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Will. I appreciate your time as well. Thanks for having me on. It was really cool to talk about this stuff. It's kind of like stuff I haven't thought about in a while, so it's cool to have it back.
Of course, man. Of course. Yeah, but take care, bro.
All right, you as well. Take care.
All right, peace.
If perfect is as perfect as, then I'll never say no to anything or anyone. If perfect is as perfect as, let this valley take me home.